Hello everyone, this is In-Game Arts with another box, another offline product game review. This is Alien Isolation for the PlayStation 4, but being played and tested on my PlayStation 5. To jump right into it, the physical copy here is just a base vanilla version of the game, so the on-disc version is 1.0. Now, sadly, there was an update available. This update size was 660 megabytes big and will take you to version 1.04 since the time making this video. And as like always, I play all my games completely offline with an unregistered account, and I didn't experience any massive game-breaking bugs or issues, and I fully beat the game on the hardest difficulty. And as well, I was still unlocking trophies with my unregistered account. Now, I did 100% complete the game, and I did not experience any massive issues like game breaking or soft locking or crashing or anything like that, but I did have some minor hiccups that I will point out in a second. But this is not the first time I've covered Alien Isolation. I've played this game multiple times. This is probably my 8th or 9th time I have played this game. But I recently covered it on PlayStation 4, so I thought it was nice to be able to run through the game again on PlayStation 5 to get a full playthrough of the experience, and I didn't experience any issues that was truly game-breaking or interrupting the flow of the game on the PlayStation 5, which is extremely nice to see and be able to get to say, because that means this is a great physical copy if you just want to play a game completely offline with an unregistered account. Now, there was some minor issues, like I did have some significant audio issues. Now, audio issues wasn't like weird or distorted sounds or irritating sounds. It was just mostly that the game would not play certain audio. Thankfully, this only happened in-game and not like during a cutscene or voice lines. It was just like if a door opened or a vent opened or certain other sound effects of me climbing onto something or picking something up, a little audio wouldn't play. Now, the only biggest one is sometimes the aliens footprints walking around, or sometimes when they're coming out of a vent or certain other sounds, wouldn't play the sound effect, which is funny because it actually made the game more scarier, because now I couldn't hear the alien all the time, every time. There was one moment where I went up to an elevator and I didn't hear any sounds, and I was about to hit the elevator button and I was like, huh, that's weird. And then next thing I heard like a random sound. It was like the alien making a hiss sound. But I was like, but I didn't even see the alien. There was nothing there. And literally, right as I turned around, he was right in front of me and immediately grabbed me. It scared the blankety blank out of me because I did not hear his footsteps or anything like that. And it was just right in the elevator. It was one of those horror movies kind of some moments. But some might be irritated that they will not sometimes be able to hear the alien, but funny enough, it made the game more difficult, and for me, who is a veteran and of Alien Isolation, it did make the game a little bit more challenging. As well as that there was a few cutscenes that were out of sync with the audio, like the cutscene would be playing, but the audio wouldn't be in time. This was generally within in-game graphics. Generally, a cutscene, this never happened, but if it was like within the in-game graphics, sometimes there could be a minor hiccup with the syncing of the video, animations, and the audio that would have played. As well as I do want to point out, this game runs entirely at 30 frames per second. There is no performance mode or anything like that. So bear that in mind. There is no 60 frames per second. But the game ran at perfectly smooth 30 frames per second throughout the entire game, which for me, I am not a frame rate person, resolution person, or whatever. I mean, yes, 60 frames per second would have been nice, but the game stays at a steady 30 frames per second, and I was able to adjust it to it relatively smoothly. It isn't 30 frames per second that's annoying, it's inconsistent frame rate. And when you get inconsistent frame rate, that's when it can become very disruptive and annoying and nauseating. I do admit, when I first started playing this game, I have been used to 60 frames for quite a bit on my PC or playing some newer PS5 games, and jumping to this game at the beginning at 30 frames per second was a little choppy and a little nauseating at the beginning, but like the human brain is designed to be able to adapt, and eventually, after maybe an hour of playing, I wasn't even noticing the 30 frames per second. It didn't bug me at all, and I rented the game, and I wasn't even thinking about it anymore. So I thought that was really cool, that how the brain can adapt to after just playing a bunch of 60 frames per second, then jump into this, or 120 recently since I got this new PC, or above, and I just went back to 30 frames per second, and it really didn't affect me at all. So that's up to you, just keep that in mind. I did have one time a minigame TV screen did not change over, so I could not see the minigame that popped up. Luckily, I was able to just back out of the minigame and go back into it, and it fixed it. But at one time, when I went into the minigame, the screen did not change over to the minigame. Not a big deal, since it's not like game breaking or preventing me progressing, but it was noteworthy of that. As that, oddly enough, I do not remember this when I first covered it on the PlayStation 4, but I went through the entire game and there is no pipe bomb. So I thought that was interesting. I never found no schematic or anything like that indicating for me to make a pipe bomb. I don't know if they never implemented pipe bombs in version 1.0, which that means this makes the game harder because now you don't got no pipe bombs. I just don't remember it because on PlayStation 4, I don't really make pipe bombs. I never really use them, so I can't even remember when I first played it on PlayStation 4 offline if that was an issue too. I just can't quite remember. Just keep that in mind. Maybe I just never found the blueprints, but I went through the entire game and I never had the ability to make pipe bombs. So I don't know if it bugged out and did not provide me the blueprints, or if the 1.0 version doesn't even have pipe bombs implemented into the game. So I thought that was interesting. As well as that, if you do not know, 1.0 has some alterations to later versions of the game. Like, there are certain different audio logs and datas, like conversation pieces that happens at a different pacing or different sections, or all new dialogue that got cut at later updated versions of the game. So just keep that in mind. If you have played the game multiple times, if you buy the PS4 version here, you have a snap piece of a certain moment when they did not remove certain dialogue exchanges. These are few and far between, but they are there, and as well as that certain items and enemies and characters are in somewhat different locations. Like, one really big one is that later on in the game you have to give up all your weaponry, your shotgun, your pistol, your flamethrower. And later on in the game, you may have noticed if you update the game, the shotgun and pistol is sitting on a ladder. It looks very awkward and out of place. That's because the original 1.0 version, the gun and the shotgun and a pistol are scattered around the room. You have to look for them. So I think they did that because after some playtests, they noticed that some people were overlooking the guns, and so therefore the only way they could fix this issue was just putting the guns right in front of your way, so that way you don't overlook it. So I thought that was very interesting. There's a few little other odd bits here and there that are changed in 1.0 that they changed later in an update. But again, this is not game breaking or issue, but just keep that in mind. If you play 1.0 version and you're wondering where the shotgun and pistol is, since you've probably updated the game, just keep that in mind that it's within the same room, but it's in different location. They're separate now. You have to go find them. As well as that, this is not a big issue, but some might be annoyed with it. And a few times, the game did have some pretty long load times. This is not that big of an issue, but it was oddly, I don't remember it having such long load times on PlayStation 4. There was one of them, I could have sworn it lasted about maybe a minute, maybe 2 minutes, that it took so long to load. I almost thought the game froze up because it took so long. But just keep that in mind. If you've been playing a lot of PS5 games, you're probably gotten really used to quick load times. You can play this one. There's a few times that the game has some pretty significant waitings on load times. And that's about it. There's no real big issues, like I said. It's just the overall game was really good. The only one you're going to probably notice the biggest is some audio issues, like some door not opening and should be playing some audio, or the alien should be making some audio and it's not, which adds a new fear to the game. Because I do know that, like, on PC, if you download some mods, there are some mods to remove some of the audio cues that the alien makes to make the game harder. So I thought that was very interesting. But also what's disappointing is that Alien Isolation is one of the few games that I like to update the game on my online PS5 and play through the game because I want the game to have the highest difficulty. That's what's disappointing, as the extreme difficulty is not on disc. You have to update the game to play that. And like I said, I have played Alien Isolation. This is probably my 8th to maybe 9th time I've ran through this game, and I don't regret it. I love Alien Isolation. To my personal opinion, it is the greatest survival horror game ever made. It is the crowning achievement of what a survival horror game should be, where you do have some equipment in some ways to fight the alien or the enemy, but you are all the time, every time, fighting for survival, and there is no possible way to win. And you can maybe deter the enemy for a little bit, but you're never 100% safe. You always feel that the enemy should always be stronger and more threatening than you could possibly ever be. That's what a survival horror game is supposed to be. I disagree with people when they say that a horror experience will get boring or get tedious and the scary parts not gets removed. That's where they try to change games later on in other horror games, where they start going into action because they feel like the game can't be scary anymore because the horror aspect has worn off. I disagree with that logic. It's just how you implement it into the game. Like, even though I've played this game 8 to 9 times now, the alien is still scary. The alien is still terrifying. It is still as intense as much as when I first played the game. And that, to me, is a sign of a good survival horror. Just like a game I would highly recommend called Darkwood. That game, there's no let up. That game is just scary throughout the entire game, and there's no jump scares. Horror can constantly be scary and even have guns. I disagree with people when they say when you introduce guns or equipment or ability to fight back, that makes the game less scary. I disagree more, because with the ability to fight back, that means there is a chance that you have to confront the enemy in some manner of way. So it gives that feeling of multiple avenues that the enemy can kill you or come at you. If it's all about sneaking and hiding, then you know how the entire game is going to be. It's just hiding and sneaking. To me, that will wear off. But with Alien Isolation, with the sneaking and hiding, an unkillable enemy, but with guns and equipment, it adds that so many layers of fear that you never know what the game's going to throw at you or what the alien's going to do. Now, that doesn't mean that Alien Isolation is a 10 out of 10 game. There are 2 gripe issues I can go with. First off, the game can be very vague sometimes on what you need to do to progress. I can see this being a little annoyance for some people, especially if you're panicking or stressing and the game is just not properly telling you what to do to be able to progress, or you have no idea where to go. It can be very vague, and I can see that being frustrating. It is the big debate of whether games should be hand-holding you or you should have to be able to learn as you go. It is a big debate of what is the proper way to make a game and help the player through, but in my always personal opinion, the one thing you never want to do is leave the player lost and confused and not knowing what to do. Because right as that happens, all immersion of the game gets swept away, because now you're just frustrated and just no longer having fun because you're just confused what you need to do. So I can fully see how some people might find that a big flaw with the game. Secondly, is that human enemies. Now, I don't mind the Working Joes. I personally don't mind them. I find them creepy, and I find them a great addition to the game and a nice break from the alien. I just don't like the human enemies. Now, I'm not saying you couldn't have maybe 1, maybe 2 crazy people who are panicking from the stress of the situation, but having these groups of people trying to attack you, I don't find that fun. I don't think that add anything to the experience, and it's just more of a tedium. I actually like the segments where you're able to let people know that there's an alien around and they need to go run and hide or go back to the safe house of waits or the security guards. I like that aspect way more than some random group of people trying to survive and be able to attack any person they see. That seems a little far-fetched to me. That's the only real thing I think they could have removed and changed, is the human enemy aspect of the game. The Working Joes and the aliens are the perfect combination, where the alien is the unstoppable threat and the Working Joes are those breaks and moments where you can be able to move more freely and attack the enemy in a more freely way. And that's why I think they're a perfect combination between them both. But in my personal opinion, Alien Isolation is a must pick up if you're a survival horror fan or if you're a big Alien franchise fan. It is the king of both an Alien game, probably even the king of a movie tie-in game, as well as the king of survival horror. It's just one of my most favorite games of all time, and I could play this game multiple times. Now, I would particularly like to see a full remaster of this game. Don't change anything. I know some might say a remake. In my personal opinion, just do a remaster. Maybe give it 60 frames per second. Give it 4K support, if you will. Maybe fix some audio issues and maybe some little alterations. Make things a little bit more clear if you can. Maybe update the lighting system in the game so it's more dynamic. But do not overhaul the game. Don't do a full remake because you're going to introduce new bugs and issues. And here's this game that's 10 years old and is fully functional on disc and beatable with no real major issues. And that's worthy of praise, and I don't want them to mess with that because clearly the coding and everything is done right, as every game developer should do. Is when they release the game, it should be able to be beatable and functional to beginning and end. Maybe there's a few hiccups. That's willing to be okay, but a game should not have 2 crashes and a soft lock at certain moments, or a Pacific team release a game and not have right joystick support out the gate, but only allow you to use motion controls. That's unacceptable. Here's this game that's 10 years old, and it's fully functional, it's dried off the disc, and that is worthy of praise, and I don't want them to alter it. But in the end, I'm super excited about the reveal that they're going to be making a sequel to this one. It's in early development. I am going to keep my expectations low because I do not know if they're going to be able to recapture the legendariness of the first one here. But in the end, I'm still super happy we have this one, and I hope that maybe we can get a remaster. But if not, this is still a phenomenal pack-up for your PlayStation 4 or your PS5, and as well, there is a physical copy for the Nintendo Switch. I have that physical copy, but I've yet to play it, so I don't know how the experience is on the Switch. But in my personal opinion, Alien Isolation is a must pick up for any survival horror fan or Alien franchise game person who loves the Alien franchise. So thank you all so much for watching. I will leave links down in the description if you're interested to copy. And like always, thank you so much for watching these videos. I know I've covered this game before, and I've talked about this. I'm pretty sure I've said everything I've already said before, but I'm super glad to be able to run through the game again on PS5, and there was little to no problems whatsoever. So again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next unboxing video. Bye-bye!